All right, so this is my review of the Expendables 4 movie, which just came out recently. And just to start off, I'm a huge fan of the 80s and 90s action type movies, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone era. Love those movies. And I love the formula of bringing back the old action stars and putting them together against like a big baddie, even if the formula is very familiar. But I felt like after Expendables 3, it was kind of a letdown and the story didn't feel, that authentic or fun. So I went into really low expectations with this movie, basically. So the movie starts in Libya, and we see these random soldiers start getting killed by this main assassin guy. And the movie doesn't do much to explain who this main assassin guy is. He just comes in, he starts killing people, taking them off one by one. And yeah, he's killing them, but we have no idea who he is. And it wasn't until upon further research that I found out that this was the guy from the Raid movies, his name being Iko Uwais. Hopefully I said that right. But anyways, he's from the Raid movies and he's pretty much a badass, but the movie did nothing like that good to explain him. So we then get a classic cut to Stallone, who's in the Expendables bar, and he goes to see Jason Statham, who's in New Orleans. And in this movie, Jason Statham is with Megan Fox for some reason. I guess it's just a way to introduce Megan Fox into the series. But I feel like it's one of the main strats in the Expendables movies where you introduce a new character and then that new character is going to be badass. And Megan Fox, of all people, I feel like, yeah, she's popular, she's really good looking, but does she have any like really badass qualities other than being in Transformers? Which the first couple movies were pretty good. But she's not like a Ronda Rousey or Wesley Snipes who actually has like, some martial arts type of background. So we go back to the Expendables bar and we're going to use a similar formula as the previous movies. Stallone and Statham basically get pressed by some goons, and we pretty much know who's going to win here. But an interesting part is Eddie Hall makes a cameo. He's like a power lifter from England, I guess. And it's pretty cool to see him in the movie, despite Stallone taking him out quite quickly. Then a big airport hangar is shown, which all the Expendables are at. They're getting ready and prepped. And it's good to see Dolph Lundgren back. And it's been in recent news that Dolph Lundgren is actually battling cancer. And he's been doing that for the past few years. Secretly, pretty much. He just came out in the public recently that he's had this battle with cancer. And yeah, props to him. He's looking pretty good. And he's been pretty active in movies from what I know. So it's good to see Dolph in there. And again, we get former UFC champ Randy Couture back on the squad. Then we have a couple new entries from 50 Cent and Jacob Scipio, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So they complete the squad. And then we get the CIA guy coming in, and he briefs the Expendables of what their mission is, and it's time to rock and roll. Now, is it just me, or does the Expendables plane look more and more fake with each entry of the film that goes on? I mean, it just looks overly digital, and the background looks fake, the engines look fake, everything looks fake, so it doesn't feel authentic at all. I mean, couldn't they mix in some practical effects with the CGI? I felt like that's what they did in the previous films. So while in the air, the plane ends up getting attacked by a SAM site, and Stallone has to let off the fellow Expendables quickly. So he taxis the runway and opens up the bay door. They all get on four-wheelers, and they kind of just ride off without a hitch. It all seems pretty unrealistic, but again, that's a common trope in the Expendable movies. There's a lot of unrealism, if that's a word, and I don't think that's too much of a bad thing, but combined with the overly digital and fake effects in this movie, I just feel like there's a lack of soul, and the non-realism just feels a lot more non-real. So yeah, when the Expendables are on the four-wheelers and you get close-up shots of the individual Expendables, you could see in the background there's like towers, and it just looks like a total green screen, and it looks overly fake. and it just takes you out of the whole movie, in my opinion. And then there's like these little sparks on the four-wheelers from, the movement and such, and it looks like sparks you would do in After Effects. And just it just takes away like the whole, soul and feel of the movie. It just makes it feel more fake, and it takes you out of the element of being in the movie and feeling like the action, and feeling that it's potentially real. Now this is when things get really goofy. About at the 25-minute mark of the movie, we have Sylvester Stallone in the plane all alone, and he's still like, flying the plane high up in the sky, and supposedly another SAM site missile hits him, and then he's coasting for a bit, and you're like, okay, what's gonna happen? And then the main baddie, Eco, he shoots a sniper round at Stallone, and then Stallone's plane crashes into the ground, killing off Sylvester Stallone, the main protagonist and actor and character of this whole Expendables series up until this one, part 4, is killed off 25 minutes into the runtime by like a SAM site and a sniper bullet or something like that. And he's clearly dead because there's a corpse burnt alive, on the finger. It has his ring on it, and yeah, that's it for Stallone. He's done. And it didn't even feel authentic. It didn't feel, real. It just felt like, okay, they killed him off. Yeah, he helped the Expendables out, but it didn't feel like, that special or heroic, in my opinion. So why would they do it? I don't know. It just took me out of the film completely at that point. I was like, okay, well, we got like a whole hour to go, hour and a bit. Let's see how this film carries on. So we cut back to the bar after all this, and it all just feels like one big joke because they show Stallone's hand at the bar, and it's like mummified basically, and it's got like the Expendables ring on the middle finger, I think, and it's on display. And yeah, satire could alleviate, levity alleviates like, sadness or whatever the saying is, but it just all felt pretty ridiculous for like, the main character, Barney Ross, to be like dead, and everyone's just like having a drink, and his mummified hand is on display at the bar, and that's it for Barney, see you later. And then in walks Megan Fox to replace Sylvester Stallone. How about that? They really brought in the big guns. Then we get the gang on the plane once again, and they're en route to their new mission location. And we get, some classic banter between the Expendables. Randy Couture is pointing out his cauliflower ear, and I feel like that trope has been done before. I could be wrong, but I swear he's at least done it in one or two of the films before. So we have all the Expendables pair dropping onto this big ship, and that's where the new MO is. And we have pretty much Megan Fox leading the squadron. She's like the new Sly Stallone. And again, it's pretty ridiculous. We have like this overly done up, pretty kind of chick with no combat experience, and she's leading the squadron, and she just looks so awkward the way she's handling her gun and moving about. And it's not believable at all, in my opinion. Now, there's nothing wrong with like having a hot lead, to kick ass. You think of like Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy, or Ellen Ripley from the Alien movies. So you have those people, and that's fine. But the way Megan Fox is overall written and shown in this movie, it's not convincing, in my opinion. So we then get some dialogue between Statham and the main antagonist, that assassin dude. And then after that, Statham goes on a complete killing spree that kind of reminds me of Commando, except the kills aren't as cool as Commando. They just feel pretty generic and soulless like other parts of this movie. And then we get like this Evel Knievel type stunt by Statham on a motorbike where he faces another evil guy on a motorbike. He just like jumps over him, and again, here's a green screen and the digitization. It just looks overly fake and soulless. So I didn't realize until reviewing this movie that Tony freaking Jaa is in it. And I didn't notice him the first time I watched it. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like he looks, totally different from before. And he's done the legendary martial arts movies such as Ong Bak from, the mid 2000s. And those movies I absolutely loved. The practicality of the fighting and the martial arts and the, scenes that are like super quick and crazy combat. So it's really cool to see Tony Jaa again in this movie. And he does have some pretty cool like knife kills in this movie and skills where he's fighting hand-to-hand combat with some of the enemies on the big ship. Now, I personally found the next scene pretty funny. It's when they're all locked on the ship together, like a part of the ship together. And 50 Cent comes up with this idea because he sees a part of the ship that is like a mechanism that is released or opened upon getting wet. It's like a safety mechanism for the ship so it doesn't get filled with water and sink or something. So 50 Cent explains all that, and he asks anybody if they have water on them, and they don't. But Randy Couture says since they dropped in, he's had to take a piss. So he'll volunteer, go to the part of the ship, and he unzips, and so to speak, he takes a piss, and slowly the, bay door or whatever, like little drawbridge thing opens, and that's their way out. And I don't know, save it for toilet humor to save this movie, but I found that scene pretty funny and entertaining. And then there's another scene which I found funny, and it's the forklift scene. So the Expendables set up a forklift, and they put a boombox on it, and the forklift is slowly rolling towards the enemies, and the boombox is playing PIMP by 50 Cent, and the enemies are just like shooting up the forklift and the driver, and they end up, turning off the music by destroying the boombox. And then the driver is revealed to be one of their own soldiers. Then they all get near the forklift like, oh, what the hell's going on here? And it explodes and kills them all. And then we get a shootout between the Expendables and the bad guys on the ship. And Megan Fox is pulling off like some WWE wrestling type moves, like she's Lita or something. And honestly, props to her because it looks pretty cool. And it actually looks like Megan Fox is the one doing the stunt. So good on her. And then we get the final battle between Statham and Nico, the main protagonist versus the main antagonist pretty much. And this fight's pretty cool. We got Statham with the double knives and Nico with the double nightsticks. And they're both going at it. They have like good fighting moves and such. And it's obviously both of them doing the fighting. And both of them do have, somewhat of a martial arts background as far as I know. So they're fighting really fluid, back and forth. It's a good fight scene. And, it's a shame that we had to wait so long for this fight to happen. But I feel like that's a common trope for all the Expendable movies, that they save a good fight scene till the end. So, despite that, we still get the scene and it's pretty good overall. But the fight doesn't last that long. It comes in around 2 minutes. And once again, good defeats evil. And Nico gets an axe right to the chest. And then we have the CIA dude who's double-crossed the Expendables. I mean, who didn't see this coming? I feel like it was pretty telegraphed and knowing. And then we get another big shootout between the Expendables and the baddies. And at this point, the Expendables are totally outnumbered. So they end up one by one rappelling down from the big ship onto Tony Jaa's sailboat, which is still tethered to the big ship. And they all do that one by one, except Jason Statham, because he's got the biggest balls and the biggest attitude. So he's got to stay back. For what reason? I don't know. I mean, there's 4 minutes left on the bomb. The ship doesn't seem like it's anywhere close to shore to make an impact and, threaten anybody. But the writing is so paper thin in this movie at this point anyways. I don't know why I'm asking these questions. So anyways, Statham makes his way to the top of the ship. He deploys all the anchors so it keeps the ship in place. And then he goes on like a mini Rambo-like killing streak. But he's running out of ammo. The wall's pushing against him, so to speak. But then, all of a sudden, all these missiles start hitting the ship from nowhere. And a chopper is heard close by. And I wonder who's in that chopper. Statham then has a standoff with the evil CIA dude. And they're about to go at it until the pilot of the chopper takes out the evil dude all of a sudden. And then the pilot reveals himself as none other than Barney Ross. Sylvester Stallone is back. And this is pretty goofy overall. I mean, Stallone reveals that he faked his own death so the CIA dude would come out as being corrupt and evil. I mean, I don't really get it. So, does that mean that Stallone knew that the plane would get hit the whole time, and then he had like that body of the kidnapped guy in the plane to put in the pilot's seat to make sure the plane went down and then kill that guy, and then he knew all of that would make the CIA dude reveal himself as being, corrupt or something? Honestly, it seems like pretty over the top and goofy to me, and I can't put the pieces together, but maybe it does make sense and it just flew over the top of my head. Anyways, we get the ship then sinking, and the bomb safely goes off underwater, and all is well. And then we get the common trope of the bar ending. All the Expendables are there. They're cheersing with their drinks. They're feeling good. They're happy about completing the mission. We get some decent banter here and there. All is well. It ends well, I guess. And honestly, this movie isn't so horrible overall. Like, I feel like it does have some good comedic tropes and action to it. It just feels like there's an overall lacking of soul and real feel to it. And it just feels like one of those movies that you watch one time and then you forget about it. And I felt like that to a lesser degree with number three. I didn't like number three that much. I really liked part one and two. Those movies were really good. But this movie, not that great. I'm going to have to give it a 4 out of 10 for the Expendables 4. How about that? A 4. So there you go.